Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Fresh Set. I'm
And
Sabrina,
I'm Kevin.
and we are coming to you straight after the Austrian Grand Prix, where we have our fifth, I think, new race winner of the
Yeah.
season.
Yeah. A lot different from
11,
last year.
11 races. Yeah. 11 races, 12 races, and 11. And we have 5 different winners.
Yeah. So we know that next week Max will
So,
win because he never loses 2 in a row.
yes.
Which
Oh,
I'm
he can't. I don't think he can afford to lose 2 in a row.
well, I mean, I think he's going to be a menace the rest of the season after today.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, yeah. So, kind of skipping ahead of everything else that happened this weekend, we have George Russell as the Austrian Grand Prix winner. A tremendous amount of luck
Oh
for
yeah.
George
Oh yeah.
today. But we, as we always say, we'll get into
Yep.
it. But let's start with the sprint.
Which
And then we've got some news later on that we'll talk
yeah,
about.
and we had no
So,
idea this was a sprint weekend. We just kind of just I mean, that's
none.
on us. That's for not looking at the schedule. But I don't think we were actually
Yeah.
expecting it. Obviously not. But yeah, we had the
No.
sprint qualifying on Friday, and then sprint
Yes.
on Saturday. Yes, that's how it goes.
Yeah.
um,
Was not prepared at all for there to be a sprint
no,
this weekend.
but I mean, okay, I just said Max never loses 2 in a row, but I mean, he did win the sprint, which I don't count as a race, but it's fun. It's fun. It's
None of
yeah,
the drivers
yeah.
count it. So
It's a nice little quick 20 laps for Max where he can get out ahead a little bit. But actually, we didn't win by that
just
much, did he? I think Piastri was pretty much right on him.
uh Piastri
Piastri came in
or
second.
Land.
No, Lando came in third. Yeah, well, okay, I say right on him. He was 4 seconds.
I
He could
mean,
only build a
that's
4-second gap in the 21 laps they had.
right. So, I mean, the good thing is that Oscar and Lando, they were consistently in DRS with Max until he was able to get that bit of a gap where I think Lando and Oscar had to fight a little bit, or not, they didn't have to fight, but they
Yeah,
did
yeah.
fight a little bit. And then that's kind of where Max got his lead. But like you said, it wasn't a tremendous a tremendous lead. Lando, consistent fastest laps. And I mean, he was picking up slipstreams left, right, and center. Like, we are seeing Lando's villain era.
Yeah, I mean, he was going for it, and he was getting his elbows out, and he was pushing people off track. Kind of. I mean, can you really? Can you really think that Lando's going to be a villain?
Yes.
Well, yeah, you can, but I mean, when you look at him, it's just it's like that innocent thing. It's like a kid that's just you wouldn't think they are. Yeah, they know they can get away with it.
No. Yeah, I think what it is, I think and I think I said this to you, is he's tasted victory and it's all he wants now, which is, I mean, everybody should be like that. But I think he's so disappointed when he doesn't get second or when he doesn't get first, when he doesn't get pole. He's so disappointed where we didn't see that with him before. He was like, nah, it sucks, but like, we're going to try.
Yeah.
He knows his car's good. He knows he can drive just as good as Max. So I think we're seeing
there's absolutely a new level of aggression coming out of Lando.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. What else happened in
Nothing
the sprint?
really of note in the sprint.
No.
Sprint qualifying. I mean, it was the first time. Was it sprint qualifying? Yes, sprint qualifying. It was the first time that Sargent actually out-qualified his teammate.
Was that the sprint or was
I believe
that
it was sprint? No, because it was
regular qualifying? One of the qualifying this weekend.
Pretty sure it was sprint. Yeah, it was sprint. It was a sprint. Yeah, because in regular qualifying, Lando finished 19th or qualified 19th. Sorry,
Lando.
Logan. Thank you.
I was like,
no, Logan.
He had an awesome drive this weekend.
Logan qualified 19th. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I mean, that was the first time that I mean, Albon for some reason in the sprint qualifying was just nowhere. It was really odd. It didn't look he didn't look comfortable. I don't know if he was worried about track limits, which last year we had they said 1200, which is really weird.
1,200
Notations.
notations.
That's
Yes.
still I mean, there's only 20
Yeah.
people on track and it's a 71 lap race. How many
Yeah.
I can't even do the math, but that's like that's
A
more than
lot.
100 a lap.
Yeah.
It's way much. It's probably
And
about one and a half, like 150 a lap around there, something like that. Um, for only 20
that's
drivers.
also well, that's also Ocon consistently doing it and getting
Yes.
multiple penalties
Well,
for it,
Ocon had
right? So,
40
like
seconds worth of penalties last year.
exactly. So it's not like he gets the penalty and then stops. So him alone was probably 600. 600 of those
That's true.
notations.
That's true. Yeah.
So, um, but actually speaking of that, they have this year they kind of changed the track slightly to what I guess they were trying to help with track
Yeah.
track
Well, it
limits.
was more so now that
And
if you go over, you're not just going to get a track limits warning. You're going to slow down your race. You're getting in that gravel, and
yeah,
you're probably going to get passed, or you're going to go off, or whatever. So it was a little more of a
yes.
deterrent.
Yeah, so they've put gravel pits
Across
right
Yeah, it was across,
beside.
like, 3 well, the problem areas, really, I think it was 3 corners,
Yeah,
or the exits of 3
yeah,
corners. Yeah.
yes. And it helped. It definitely
Well,
helped. There was only, I think, 4 or 5, Lando being 3 of them today.
but 2 of
Uh,
those where he literally went off track. Like, it wasn't, like,
yes.
close where he mistimed his braking
Yeah,
zone or whatever. Well, he did, actually. He went right straight through and almost caused an accident, and then he caused an accident.
yeah.
No, he didn't cause it, but anyways, we'll get uh,
Well, yeah. In continuing in the sprint, at one point we had top 7 and Leclerc was in 8th. But the top 7 were all within DRS at one point during the
Yeah,
race. And so it's like this is how tight that race was. It was lots of fighting. Um,
clean start. Not a lot of
very
yeah.
clean. No, it was all clean fighting as well. Uh Perez, I heard this little note at the end. Perez finished 17 seconds behind Max in a track that only has 20 or in a race that only had 24 laps.
Yeah. Well, and I don't wanna
Well,
defend Perez really, per se. I mean, Max did have a clean area ahead of him, so he did have, you know, the advantage of not having to go through traffic where Perez was. I mean, he had a lot to deal with in the back, so it's easy to build that gap. I mean, but you're also in the fastest car, so maybe you should be right behind him, which
yeah.
he hasn't been at all. At
No,
all. Nowhere near him.
and one thing about this track is it's incredibly short.
Yeah.
So they're doing the track they're lapping that track with a minute 4 seconds in qualifying. During the race, it's a little bit slower, a minute, what, 12. But again, to be 17 seconds behind, like it's not like this is a takes them a minute 30
Yeah.
to get around. Like 17 seconds in less than a minute is
That's
a lot.
almost a third of the lap.
He's almost lapping
Yeah,
you.
yeah,
Like, so, yeah, a bit of, difference in the Red Bulls again.
yeah.
Uh,
I mean, but it's not even like it's yeah, okay, 17 seconds, but it's even in the qualifying, he's not even close to him. Not even
no,
close. I mean, you're by yourself.
no,
You're probably getting a tow somewhere, and you're not even anywhere near him. The closest, I
yeah,
think, for the regular qualifying this weekend, Max was still 4/10 of a second up on everybody else, and
yeah,
Perez was not one of them. It
nope.
wasn't even a half a second within like his teammate. He was probably I think it was
Mm,
7/100ths of a second or something like that. Almost a whole second.
he was uneventful
He was
this weekend.
he was yeah, almost a full second. He was 900ths of a second off of Max's time in this
I mean,
yeah in the final qualifying in Q3. Yeah,
qualifying.
which he did make it to Q3.
Well, good
Yeah,
on him. Good. It's only
I mean he was only
taken
100th of a second faster than Hulkenberg in a Haas.
Well, I mean, Hulk did
Well,
really well
Hulk is
today.
great, and Hulk is pushing that car to the absolute limit, whereas Perez is pushing
Yeah.
that car across the track.
It's just like Sunday
Yeah,
stroll
yeah,
there. Um, all right, so that was
yeah,
sprint, kind of it. And then, as we've mentioned before, when we have a sprint, the new format qualifying for the actual race is 3 or 4 hours
yeah. Quick turnaround. See you
after.
later.
Yeah. So, quali Q1, the notable mentions that I had for Q1 was that Kevin Magnussen was
Yeah,
flying,
yeah,
absolutely flying. In Q1, he ended up in fifth, um, which again, the numbers are gonna be all zeroed out, and then he's got to
yeah,
go again
yeah,
in
yeah. And not
Q2.
everybody's at
But
the absolute limit, right? I think because I think even the top four, both in Q1 and Q2, didn't even do a second run. They figured their time was going to be good enough, so just
yeah,
yeah, no point in wasting tires and battery and all that stuff.
yeah. Which I mean, still a Haas up in
Oh
fifth.
yeah, yeah,
Fantastic. And his Haas, because he hasn't been the one that's necessarily been
not at all.
performing the best. So, it was nice to see him up there in 5th.
Which may have
Uh,
been the reason for his, or part of the reason for his little ego.
temper
Yeah,
tantrum.
little ego this weekend. Um, we'll get into that in the
The
race. Um,
Yeah, and then Stroll out in Q1, which not a huge shock, but, I mean,
but I
Stroll
mean,
out in Q1. It's an Aston
sign,
Martin.
yeah, sign a contract and see you later. I don't have to drive anymore. Um, I mean,
Yeah.
sign a contract. Um, just
Yeah.
announced the contract that we all knew was coming for since
Yeah.
last year.
And it was like the most, so if anybody doesn't know what we're talking about, Lance Stroll has extended his
2
contract
years.
with Aston Martin for another 2 years.
Which is
Uh,
the
it
most bullshit term contract. It's like, here's 2 years so we can assess how you do in 2 years. So basically, if dad's in a position to sign me again, I'm signing again.
right. As long as dad still owns the
Exactly, yeah.
company,
This is more of
then
a Lawrence saying, I don't know if I want to be here in 2 years. So we're just gonna have it for 2 years and see what happens.
well, how does it look? I mean, I'm not a parent. You are a parent. How do you, owning the company, owning the team, uh, have a son that is a driver and be like, "Oh, I really don't want I don't want him as my driver." Like, can
No.
you do that?
Could I do it?
In good
No.
you
No,
can do
I
it.
couldn't. I couldn't. My kid would be out of there real quick. He would be out of there real fast. We'll find, a racing series you can excel at. It's not Formula One. So yeah,
We'll
yeah,
put you back in
yeah,
karting.
yeah, sure, yeah. We'll put you against
We'll
the
do.
teens. Maybe you
Yeah.
can win a race there.
Yeah.
Maybe, but you're not racing in my several $1 million car that I'm pumping a crap ton of money on.
Yeah.
You have a teammate that's outperforming you, still not in the greatest of positions because your car, for whatever reason, has just gone down the tubes. Um,
Yeah.
but I'd rather put a driver in there. I'd rather get two drivers that could consistently get me some points.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't make sense. It was, they kind of presented it as like shocking, brand
Yeah,
new information.
yeah.
But it was like, okay,
Yeah.
cool.
But it's the
Uh
definition of literally pissing away money.
yes. I'd love to know his salary. We could probably find it.
It's
It's
yeah, it's just yeah.
open.
Um, but yeah, that was I mean Q1 Stroll out, which is the notable one, but which I mean they're
Yeah.
really the seventh fastest car now.
Yeah. I mean, after today, are they even,
No, I mean
are they still in
you've got the
7th?
stakes that are at the bottom, steak kick, Sauber, Audi, whatever. The V carbs that are down there as well, the Williams that are down there as well, and then you've got the Aston Martins. Really, because
Yeah.
now Alpine's surpassed them out of nowhere. Don't know how that.
And we don't know what they did
No, I mean
or if they did
they've brought some
anything.
upgrades, but nobody's focused on them, and they're creeping up.
No.
They're creeping up.
Yeah. They're getting into Q2s
Q3 this
and
weekend. Both of them in
Q3s. Yeah, I
Q3.
mean,
Oh, no, well, they both
Ocon,
made it to Q3, but Gasly had a lap deleted, so
yes, so he
yeah.
dropped down. Uh, Charles was on a awesome flying lap, lost the back end in turn 9, went completely off track and started in P10.
Yeah, and the, um, the knock on Charles is that the fact that not knock, yes, no, is that he drives that car to the absolute limit. And it doesn't turn out well for him more times than it
Ever,
does turn out well.
ever.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's do you need it on the absolute limit? Can you not just take I don't know, I don't know, just find a better
He needs a
throttle point where you're
nice
not going to lose that back end coming out of a corner because it happens so often where he's losing that coming out of a chicane or
yeah,
and it's
but we see it on Carlos as well. So it's something with the car. Carlos not nearly as much, but
uh
you see the sliding a little
is it
bit.
or is it the fact that they're pushing each other so hard that
Fair point.
I mean, Charles obviously got some what's the word I'm looking for here? Something in the back of his mind after Monaco and his not so great performances for whatever reason, whether mechanical or whether
Yeah,
on his. When you talk about hockey, when you hear somebody in a slump, they say they're gripping that stick too hard, which means they're trying too hard or
yeah,
they're overthinking things. Um, could be the same thing with with Charles
yeah,
and Science, right? Where they're
yeah,
just the cars there, or maybe I'm sure there are some quirks to they still need to figure out, but
yeah.
are they pushing it and not thinking about those quirks and you know taking it to a limit where their mistakes are so amplified?
Yeah, I
Obviously, I
think
mean, he did.
they're just driving I don't know, they're just literally driving the heck out of those cars, which is good if you can keep
When
them
it
on
works out,
schedule,
yeah.
which which you're not.
Which I
So,
mean, he didn't, and he put himself in a not great position for the start of the race, and was
yeah,
obviously a worse position because of what happened in the race. Instead of being,
yes,
somewhere in the front row or third or fourth, now he put himself
yeah,
into a bunch of crap
yeah.
around a
So,
bunch of people that I would not want around me going into turn one. No,
no, not at other than
other
Piastri,
than Piastri, who's
who he
he's very calm
has
and yeah, that's
yeah.
but yeah,
So Piastri, the last thing I would say about quali is that Piastri had a great quali. I think he was probably 3rd?
we
No,
finished seventh,
he
seventh,
qualified
seventh.
was that after the track limits?
Did he have a traffic? I don't remember if he had a track limits.
He had lap time deleted.
Oh, I
That's
didn't.
why he was so pissed.
Oh, that's right. Yes, he was. He was. Yes, that's right. He was third.
Yeah.
He had a track limits,
So,
and
yeah.
then
So I think that's what dropped him to 7th.
yes, yeah,
And then so I mean, he was pretty disappointed.
yes, because then George parked
Uh
his car up there.
yeah. Really
Oh
quickly.
yeah,
Like they figured that out
yeah, yeah.
really
Well, Toto
quickly.
was on that. Toto was on that radio this weekend, and he was super excited
Yeah.
about everything.
Oh, yeah. But we've heard from Zach. Oh no, we didn't hear from Zach. We heard from McLaren that they did file a petition to argue Piastri's track limits because I mean, you even called
That's
it. He didn't
right.
touch the
Yes, they
gravel.
said that because that was the big thing. If you touch the gravel, I mean, I didn't see anything come up. Maybe they did. If he did, he touched a rock. Um,
One
it
pebble.
was millimeters.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I mean, the FIA is the FIA. We'll get into it, but um, yeah, no, I don't think he should have had that lap time deleted.
No,
It was a little, it
not
was a
at
little
all.
harsh, but
Yeah, I'd
it
say
is what
so.
it is, and he ended up in seventh. So
Yeah. And then we have the race.
yeah,
So, as we mentioned, George Russell wins the Austrian Grand Prix. Oscar comes second. Carlos comes third. this is not how the race was looking. This is not what anybody was
Nobody expected any of that.
anticipating.
There wasn't even any
And
real. I mean, there was some fighting. They had a little bit of fighting between Lewis and Sainz, Piastri, a little bit fighting his way through the pack, but
yeah,
nothing really of note other than a little bit in the beginning. Well,
no,
obviously, what happened in the beginning.
yeah,
But by the time George took the lead, we thought it was all done and dusted, and it was there was nothing was going to come of it. Like it was going to be this
I
exactly
mean,
how it was in that race order. It
yeah,
was
at that
10
point,
laps, 9 laps left or something like that.
I wanna say it was 65, lap
So like 6,
65?
7 laps left. Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, starting at the beginning of the race, Max has awesome
Yeah.
start, same kinda start that he had in the sprint, took off immediately. It looked like only thing I could explain was, like, it looked like when they did the aerial view, when kids are playing soccer and, like, the ball goes and then all the everybody was just falling 'cause everybody else was bunched up and Max was just taking
Yeah.
off by
Yeah.
himself. Leclerc got pinched. He had Oscar on one side and Perez on the other side?
Yes, because it was Oscar. Yeah, because
Or
he made contact with Oscar. Yeah.
yeah, and it ruined
His front wing.
Leclerc's front
Yeah.
wing. Oscar something we never actually heard what was wrong with Oscar's car,
They felt
but
whatever
he
damage that he had, he was fine to continue until he
and
needed
he
um, a pit stop, a regular pit stop. So
yeah,
yeah, he was
but, Leclerc came in right away.
next lap before the
Uh
lap ended. Right at the
yeah,
end of that
he
first lap.
came
Yeah.
in yeah, and
It,
came out 40 seconds behind the
which
lead.
is more than half of your lap. And
Yeah,
it was funny because I'm watching and Bianca just happened to show up and said, "What's going on with Leclerc?" And I showed her the actual um, track
yeah.
view where you can see all the little dots and everybody going around, and it's just Leclerc and Sargent just coming along by themselves with nobody around them.
Yeah,
I'm like, "This is how far
Leclerc and
back he is.
Sargent.
It's he's done. It's
Depends how you look
his
at it. They could have been 1st and 2nd.
well, either way, his day's over until you get a safety car. If you got a safety car,
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, they kept coming on the radio. I wanna say Leclerc did 4 pit
he
stops
did. He did
this
3
race.
pit stops before anybody even did a second.
Yeah, and they kept coming on the radio saying to him, you know, "We think you can get into the points."
Where?
And at this point,
Where?
he was in, like, 19th, and, I mean, by the end of it, he got to 11th,
Okay,
but
but, back as a parent, right? That's like telling my child, "Good job, buddy, you can do it. You're gonna get a participation medal in this one."
Yeah,
No, you
yeah,
suck. It's not your fault, but it's not realistic, okay? Yeah, okay, you're
yeah,
gonna get ahead of the
fair.
Haas, you're gonna get ahead of, um, what do you call them? The stakes and the
Sauber.
salvers and the all those, the ones at the back of the pack, you're probably going to
Yeah.
beat Sargent, which I mean, he struggled with the Williams at first because after they took out or replaced his wing, they put on the hard tires after one lap, um,
Yeah,
and it just wasn't working for him. They found out real
no,
quick that the hard tires are not a great tire. They weren't warming up well enough. They weren't giving you that
right.
grip. Everybody was sliding. Even Max was complaining about himself on the hard tires.
Yeah,
And yeah, and so they brought him in. I think they brought him in another 10 laps later on a hard tire
yeah.
to put him back on the mediums. Like, what are you doing?
And then he came
And
in
then he came in
again.
again for more mediums.
Yeah,
And that
yeah.
was only his third by lap, was it at 35, 40, something like that?
30, yeah, I was gonna say
Yeah,
30s,
it was
mid-30s.
I even everybody on the broadcast is like, why are they bringing him in again?
They're like, "He's in
Yeah.
again." He's in
It
again.
was just a disaster. I mean, they
Yeah, we didn't
oh, sorry, go on.
no, I was just gonna say we didn't hear a lot of, um, the the decisions to pit, like, the higher up, like Max and Lando, we didn't hear a lot of
No.
that, but what we saw a lot, twice, I guess, um, they followed each other in both times, I think it was.
Yeah.
So I the order must have been, if Max comes in, you come
Yeah.
in. Uh, so it really was strategy again. But Lando, fastest laps
Yeah. Whether it
consistently
was
throughout the
didn't matter what
race.
tire he was on, he was getting the fastest lap.
Didn't matter if he was in 4th because he had pitted, fastest lap. 2nd,
Yeah.
fastest lap when he was in, just fastest lap consistently. I think, Alonso had it for 1 lap right at the end, but
Yeah, that
that
wasn't
didn't
gonna.
I don't think
No.
that stuck with him. Um, and then Max got a bit of a break, and he was 5 seconds ahead, and then I think he was 7 seconds ahead.
Yeah, never really made it into the double digits, but I don't think he was trying to really build that
No,
as much as possible. Which I mean, helped
no.
him. He built he built up like an 8-second gap at some point. Which I
Yeah,
mean, by their second pit stop, Max has a terrible, terrible pit stop, and he was at 6.9 seconds. I believe it was. Was it 6.9?
yeah, something
Six
like that.
six and a bit, whatever it was. Because his left rear nut wouldn't come off.
Yes.
But he still got out and still got out ahead of Lando, who just came in right behind him.
Yeah,
Okay, his gap was a second and a half at that point, but
yeah, and he kinda came on to the the radio and was like, "Come on," and GP was like, "We
yeah,
know.
just
Keep
exasperated.
going.
Just yeah,
Just
which I mean,
don't
and at
worry.
that time,
Just drive."
at that time, it's like okay, great, he's ahead, whatever. There might be a little bit of a
Yeah.
fight, but that ruins his race.
It
That
absolutely
ruins
ruined
his
his
race.
race.
That set up
Yes.
all the events that came after that.
Yeah.
Um,
It it was a dogfight after
Lando
that
was
pit,
right on him.
and Lando was catching him. Like, they were both pushing
Yeah,
limits, pushing each other, some
literally,
more than the
literally.
others, pushing
It
each
was
other.
elbows out the whole way. I mean, Lando was always looking for a gap at every corner,
Yeah,
every straight, every DRS zone. He was looking for which way to
yeah,
go. And Max, we saw old Max. We saw old Max. It
yeah,
was a lot of moving under braking,
yeah,
subtle second moves after you pick a side, which
yeah.
Lando was complaining about. And there was a lot of complaining on the radio. There was a
A
ton
lot of
from
compla
both
even
sides. From
Max was
both sides, yeah.
complaining. Yeah,
Yeah. Talking about how Lando was driving dangerously. Um, Lando was complaining about Max doing those maneuvers that were dangerous.
yeah, yeah.
So he kind of just, that friendship didn't really last throughout the race.
The one thing I will say, though, is because they're friends, you could see that the radios were very polite.
uh,
Because
until
in the past,
that last
Max's radios are never
no no
polite.
until that last lap where everything just went to shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Post-race interviews were did you
I
watch
did
the
not
post-race
see them.
interviews? Okay, so Lando's pissed.
Sure.
Max is like, "What did I do wrong? I just
Yeah.
drove." Like, you know,
Which
2026 or 2016 Max, like, just being like, I know how to drive the car. You just, I'm allowed to move. He doesn't know what
but
I'm doing." And
he's
it's like,
saying that because he was able to finish the race. I mean,
correct.
it was a very, very different outcome. If Max hadn't finished
Yeah.
that race, I think we would have seen a Max Ocon moment in the pits.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah. Pushing
yeah, or
and
just really
oh,
maybe not pushing, but really
yeah.
a more heated conversation.
Yeah, well, Lando did say if he doesn't get an apology from Max, he will lose some respect for him. So they asked
Wow.
they asked Max if he would apologize, and his response was very diplomatic. "Well, I need to
Yeah,
see."
yeah.
First of all, he was drinking
I need I
he was drinking a Red
yeah,
Bull when they said it, and his eyes were like,
yeah. I need to
"Apologize."
see the tapes, blah blah blah, and the data, and yeah, what
Yeah,
they always say. Yeah. I
yeah.
mean,
But
regardless of what he sees, he was given the at fault for it. He was given the 10-second time penalty,
yeah,
which
yeah.
which was nothing. It meant absolutely nothing. Um,
No,
because he was already at that point, he was what, 12, 15 seconds ahead
15
of the
seconds.
place behind him after he came in and changed
Yeah.
his tire. He went around a whole lap with a blown tire. It came off the rim, and he came
I don't even know how he was able to drive
but
that
he came
car.
back and he was unlapped by the people he lapped. He came back out in fifth place and still had a 15-second lead in fifth place. So his 10-second
Yeah.
time penalty meant nothing. He just, I mean, other than the fact that he was in fifth, but it didn't drop him back any other
It
places. So he still
no,
got like
it
12
was
points today.
Yeah. And we now know that the call to retire the car was actually Lando's
Yeah,
call. When he came into the pits, he said, "Just forget it."
which
That would be, like, something I would do. Like, "I don't wanna do this anymore."
okay, okay, but that's like Lewis last year, where he's like, he's finished, he gets hit, he comes back to like 19th. He's like, well, I'll just retire the car. Well, no, we still
Yeah,
think you can make the
because that
points.
was
If Lando comes back out and he's in 7th or 8th, I mean, him and Max were right there, right? You see Max come out in
yeah.
5th, and he's got a 10-second time penalty, right? Lando could have come out in 6th or 7th, or whatever, and still gotten a few points.
I think Lando would have probably driven him off the road at that
But at that
point.
point, it's not his call to make. It's
Yeah.
not his call to make.
Eh, but I he it looks like from the video, it looks like he stopped the
He did.
car,
He stopped the car, and, like,
took
they're getting
the
ready, and he just took the steering wheel off, and
steering wheel
yeah,
off.
and then just got
He
out.
was
Yeah,
done and just walked away. And I mean, I think at that point there was maybe 3 laps left, maybe 3 or 4.
yeah,
Um, so it was I mean, but it was a lot of pushing, and even after the accident where they both go off, uh, yeah, they both go off into the gravel
yeah.
essentially. They both come back onto the
Max
track,
doesn't have a wheel.
but with their damage, and then Max just pushes Lando right to the other side
Yep,
onto the
yep.
grass.
Because Lando was able to move a little bit more, and he was not letting him pass.
Not and I think that's the one that they're giving him the penalty
Oh,
for.
yeah.
I
It's a
think it's
dangerous
that one
situation.
opposed to the one before.
Yeah,
Yeah. Like,
yeah.
you can't do that. Uh, and then there was another interview with Max after, and he's like, "What, am I just supposed to let him through?" Yeah.
Well, you're supposed to give him the space. You're supposed to give him, and
Yeah.
I mean, there was half a car. I think what happened is Max was very aware that at that point Lando's got 3 track limits violations. If he gets a 4th one, he gets a
Yes.
time penalty. I think he was trying to squeeze him
Yeah.
enough to get him that time penalty. So even if he passed him, he's not going to get Max is still going to stay in first. I think that was a very
Yeah.
strategic move, trying to get Lando
Absolutely.
off the racing line, um,
Absolutely.
but not
And
leaving enough
yeah,
space.
no. And I mean, he Lando did actually end up getting that 5-second
Yeah, which
penalty. So, probably another reason that he was like, "Just take me out," because I think maybe for
yeah,
him
but
and their
if he doesn't serve that penalty, that gets tacked on to next race,
true,
I believe.
and he's been yeah, he could have done it that way.
He
Yeah.
could have come around. He would have had to have come around, serve that time penalty because I think it gets tacked on to the next race if he doesn't serve that
Yeah,
penalty.
he wouldn't even they probably weren't even paying attention to, like, the distance, just like how we're saying Max got the penalty for 10 seconds and, still ended up in 5th. They probably weren't even paying
But
attention to what was going on lower
that's what a
back
strategist
to
is for. That's what they get paid
to
for.
say, "You know what, Lando, don't
Yeah.
worry, like, just take it, we'll figure it out,
A
get
team
back on track."
principal's
But
job is to say, "No, you're driving the car. We pay you. Get your ass
yeah,
back in the car."
yeah.
Like,
Well, didn't happen, and I'm just watching, I'm like, "No, no, no, this is not." You saw it, though. You saw it
it was
happening.
coming.
They were
Yeah,
pushing each other, they were testing each
yeah.
other.
There was
Uh,
already them going off track, uh, claiming they need that position back or whatever, back and forth.
yeah,
It was coming. It was a matter of time. I was
yeah,
actually typing
and
to you that they're going to crash when it
yeah,
happened.
yeah, and then it
Yeah.
happened, and it's interesting. You don't often see Max with damage,
No.
uh,
Well, because he's been so
and
far
damage
ahead.
like that.
You saw it in
Yeah,
2016, you saw it in 2017, you saw it in 2018 and
yeah,
2019 because he doesn't give anybody room,
push.
and Brundle said it, like, this is old Max. This is him. If he's not gonna
We're
give you
right
that
back.
space.
Yeah. We're right back there, and I mean, even that was something that Max, was saying in the post race. He was saying, everybody's entitled to their own opinion, and everybody's going to say certain things. And I don't remember who was interviewing him, but she was saying, well, we have or former drivers, Brundle,
Yeah,
Crofty, that are saying you absolutely push. He deserved the
yeah.
penalty, and Max just kept saying it's everybody's opinion.
Well,
Like, it was very
the only
much
person's opinion that matters is the FIA at this point, and they said you're wrong.
and
So
yeah, so you're
yeah.
wrong. Uh, then we see an Alpine first go past them because that was an Alpine that had been lapped. And then we see George. George come through, who was, I guess, at that point in third. Um,
Yeah.
and
Total.
Oscar Piastri's behind him, and then Carlos Sainz behind Oscar. And Toto gets
And
on
he is, yeah, it
the
sounds like he
radio.
is so excited that he is peeing
You
himself.
can
"You
do
can do it,
it.
George, you can do it." And he's like, "Just let me race." That's like
Yeah.
that's that parent that you see, when their kids, when the kids in a track and field meet and the parent is running with them. I
Yeah.
was like, yeah.
Running beside, yeah. I think if he could, he would run or you would race
Oh,
right beside
absolutely.
them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
He'd be in
Yeah.
the car with them. And again, it was maybe 3 laps remaining, and it was just but then you saw Oscar turn it on, and we're like, "Okay, hold on. Can Oscar actually catch him?" And his times were getting closer and closer,
Well, it's
but
also it's like I told you, we know last lap George is terrible. So, I mean,
yeah,
he's
anything's
never been in
possible.
first with that last lap other than the one he run. But
Yeah,
it's you never know. He hits a
yeah,
gravel trap or, you know, whatever. He takes his eye
yeah,
off or he thinks he won before he even actually won and he takes his foot off that gas. Something will happen to George, usually. So,
yeah. And the last corner before he came in to
yeah.
win, I don't know if you noticed how cautious he
Oh
took it.
yeah. Like
He
he knew
took
he had
it
a couple seconds. He's like, I'm
very
just going to bring this home. Just
yeah, he didn't take it wide at
no.
all. He came in the middle. It wasn't the racing line at
No.
all. I mean, it was still all legal.
Oh
It's
yeah, yeah.
just he was
He's like,
very
I'm
cautious
not
with it.
effing this up. It's
Yeah. And I mean, the excitement from Toto on the radio, the excitement from
George. He gave
George.
like a yabba dabba doo or something. He made some noise. What is this?
Yeah.
The radio's still
I
on.
mean, this yeah. This is his first, sorry, his
His second
second
win. First
win.
in a Mercedes.
Uh, first
Because
no,
he won
at
in Williams.
in Brazil. No, didn't
He's only had
he
one
won
race win.
in
Was it with
he
Mercedes? I
was
thought it was
with
with Williams. Oh.
yeah, in
Oh, that's
Brazil.
right. Yes, it was.
What Williams?
Why would he
Come
have won
on.
in a Williams?
I was like,
Um,
come on. And so this is 2 years on from his first win. Uh, good for
hey,
him.
it's
I mean, good on him, paying
it's why
attention.
you keep
And
racing.
sometimes
That's
and sometimes that's all you need to if you see that that's what's going on, let them fight
oh
it
yeah.
out because they're gonna take each
Yeah.
other out.
Yeah. You're
Like,
gonna be the benefactor
they're
for sure.
yeah, you're gonna just stay a little bit further back and you'll be fine to make it through whatever that
Which
was.
I mean, Charles must be just losing his goddamn mind
Nightmares he's gonna have.
because he could have been on a podium.
Yeah.
He could have been on a podium if it wasn't for all the crap that happened to him this weekend. At least a
I
podium, maybe a win.
yeah. I think he would have I think they were saying on his numbers were because he had to back out of his last or he backed out of the lap he was on. But I think he would have been either second or third to start
Yeah,
the race. So if he was second, I mean, he could have been in part of the tangle with Max, but
possibly
maybe he wouldn't have brought it to Max the same way. Um, or he would have been
up there.
anything's
Anything is,
possible.
yeah, yeah,
Shoulda, coulda,
yeah.
woulda.
I think this weekend's gonna haunt him.
Yes, everything about this weekend is
Yeah.
going to haunt him.
Um, other than that, we had 2 Haas in the points. 2,
Mhm.
both of them.
Yeah,
And
both of them.
Hulk and Megs, obviously both of them,
Yeah,
getting 12 points this weekend. Magnussen finished in 6th. I mean, they would have
insane.
finished what 8th and 10th if it wasn't for the crash, but regardless, the crash happened and that was it. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, 8th.
I mean, they drove well too. So I mean, I know I kind of said to you like, Mercedes is going to pretend it was all about the car. No, you got lucky.
Sure, they didn't have
but
the pace, but he was in the right
but
spot.
they
Yeah,
still drove
yeah,
well. Like the other and like that's a lot of times that where we see those battles that the commentators will say, it's no points, but it's an awesome battle that's happening, in 12 or 13 or what have you. It still shows that the drivers knows what they're
yeah,
doing. So, still good to watch. And they're just looking for that little opportunity to take advantage
yeah.
of. So, and then Magnuson's,
Oh, Magnus's little freak out.
uh,
That was
yeah,
early on in the race. That was probably what 15, 20 laps in. It was after the first pit
yeah,
stop when they went on to hards. A couple laps after that,
yeah,
it was they were right on each other's tail, and I guess his engineer kept Magnuson's engineer comes in and says we have to look after our tires. He's like, well, you're saying that same thing to Nico. He says, well, we're just
yeah.
asking you to keep looking after your tires, and he literally just tells his pit wall, fuck that,
Fuck
yeah,
that.
and he's just like, you know what, we're gonna fight, and that's it. Uh,
Yeah.
so
They kept it
they did, yeah,
clean.
yeah,
They kept it clean. I did see that they watched, the Denmark-Germany game last
yeah,
night, and one is from Denmark and one is from Germany. So, bit of a rivalry in their own and they have their own rivalry.
yeah.
But,
I'm
yeah, so,
You can't blame K Mag for saying that. Like, don't give me the same.
I mean,
Don't give me an order that you're not giving him when you're both running
yeah.
the same race, basically.
They're both
Yeah,
doing the same
yeah,
thing. Yeah,
yeah.
they're both doing the same thing, so
Um,
alright. Is
I
that
think that's
our
basically it for the
is
race.
there,
There
more?
wasn't really a lot. Well, there was a lot else. There was a lot going on, but um, I think
Yeah.
that was it for the race. I mean, congrats, George.
Yeah. Congrats to George and Piastri, so
Yeah,
close. Has he got a 2nd place yet?
Piastri.
And
I feel like he
yeah, I know
has.
he's gotten 3rd.
I feel like well, yeah, he's been on the podium a few times, but I feel like he
Yeah,
has gotten a second. I could be wrong about that, but this could
yeah.
be.
Oh, one other one other thing about the cool down room
Oh,
after, the most random of people being in the cool down room, right? So you have George, Carlos, and
yeah,
Oscar. Odd bunch to have together, but it
don't feel
happens.
like it doesn't
That's who's
look
in
like they
there.
they really interact very much outside of
Yeah,
whatever
exactly.
that was.
Uh, and, George is they're watching the accident and they're rewatching the race basically. Little recaps of it. And George is like, "Oh, cool fighting. Very cool
Is
fighting."
it? I mean,
And Oscar looks at him. He's like, Oscar's like, "Well, you won because
yeah.
of it." So,
Like, wasn't it a
like,
real cool fight? I mean, they killed each other basically. Yeah,
yeah. But it was just Oscar is like
yeah,
just the king of just one-liners and just straight to the point.
and just
Like,
George being giddy over everybody else's misfortune.
yeah. And then at one point they did say that we shouldn't be laughing, but I mean, here
Yeah,
we are. Look
I
at
mean,
us. That's
they're
all we
probably
were
laughing
missing.
more at the fact that Max was out. So
Yeah, for sure. Everybody was safe,
yeah,
so
yeah, for
you
now.
you can laugh
For now,
about it.
until they take each other out again
For now.
next week.
Yeah. Silverstone?
Yeah, it's gonna be
That's another
fresh
one.
wounds,
Yeah, which is Lando's home race. Max cannot lose 2 in
and
a row.
everybody at Silverstone hates Max. Yeah,
Yes.
so it's
Yeah.
gonna
And this was Red Bull's home race, so that kinda sucks. But Toto, we talked about this, Toto's home
Toto is
race, so
Austrian, yeah.
he was on cloud 9. At the end, Rachel asked him where his lederhosen was. He says
Random.
he has it in the country, so I guess he's going
He's gonna go just sure.
into the
Okay.
mountains for a couple of days. Wears lederhosen.
Good on you. That's
Random question to ask someone that just won for the first time in a
yeah,
long
in a
time.
while.
Yeah,
Um,
but
other than that, it's just news, I guess, no?
news, yeah, switching over to news. So we said Lance Stroll, is that news? No, we can move on. Uh,
Good call.
that's about it. That's about it.
But Pierre Gasly also
Uh,
signed. Gasly
yes.
signed for I don't think we had a
Yeah.
term, did we? It just says extends
Mm,
contract for multi-year contract for 2025 and beyond. Maybe that
right.
information will come out
So,
later on, but uh,
yeah. So he's staying. Another one that we kind of figured was gonna
Ocon's
happen.
gone. You figure they're going to keep one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What
We
else do we
had
have?
Mick Schumacher gets a chance to audition for Alpine this week or
Yeah.
next week in France at that track there. So
Yeah.
maybe that might be a seat for him as long as he doesn't put it into the wall there. Um,
Yeah.
then again, I mean, they've given Ocon 1,000 chances, so
Yeah.
I
True.
guess they'll just
I
assess the amount of damage, how much it would cost them to keep
yeah.
either one.
They're just gonna look at, how much are you gonna
Yeah,
cost us
risk
in
risk
our test
risk
car?
risk reward, figure it
Yeah.
out. There's a rumor going around that Logan Sargent might be signing or might have already signed a contract with Prema in IndyCar. So fueling more
Yes.
rumors that he is definitely not going. Well, I mean, he was not going to resign with Williams.
I don't think that was a rumor
Yeah,
to
it's
begin
rumor. Yeah,
with.
it's basically the Lance Stroll of Williams. The opposite
Well,
way. It just
the opposite way. Well, it's just and I think I've said this to you, or I don't know if I said it on a previous episode, but there's been so much talk about who's going to Williams, and it's never
there's
been,
never been a question that
"Oh, Logan's an
no.
option to resign." It's always been Bottas, Signs, like, there's always everybody else. It's
I
never
mean, he's an
been Logan's name,
option
which
if
kinda
like
sucks.
the driver parade burst into flames and he wasn't on there for one day. Um, so excuse me.
Yeah.
I almost choked on all that. Um, one thing before we get into the biggest part of the news this week, apparently Yuki Tsunoda was fined
Yes.
€40,000 for inappropriate comments made on team radio, and I think it was sprint. I don't know if it was sprint qualifying or after the sprint race. Um, oh, I'm hitting my mic.
I don't remember
Um,
I don't remember which one it
it
was.
doesn't say here which in what I have what it was, but apparently he said, "Excuse me." Apparently he said the R word over the radio, in not any
Yeah.
kind of a derogatory term. It was more so just like this situation is whatever.
Yeah.
Now I'm not condoning what Yuki said, okay, but that fine seems a little excessive. It seems a little bit too much of a try hard by the FIA to fine him $40,000. We've had drivers literally put other people in danger and they get a 5,000 or $10,000 fine, euro, whatever it is. I get it's very visible, but to me, this is more of a team matter. I don't think the FIA really needs to get involved in any of this. It's a team radio.
Mm,
Don't publish the team radio.
yeah,
I'm
I
not.
mean
I'm not saying what he said was right.
yeah,
Apologize for it, whatever. It's I think
which he
context
has.
matters here.
Yeah. So he did put out, a statement on Instagram apologizing. He didn't quite say language barrier, but, I mean, we also have to factor that in. Again, not okay what he said, uh, but $40,000, I agree. We had was it Gasly almost took out was it Gasly earlier this year almost took out one of his pit crew?
Yeah.
with an unsafe
Yeah,
release, and I think that was only
yeah.
$5,000 fine, and it doesn't even go
We've seen
to
things on
the guy that you almost took
we've seen
out.
things on track where
Like
it's just like a reprimand or something. Like it's ridiculous.
yeah,
It's too much of a, I guess, political statement by the FA. I get it that it is like they can't condone any of that. I'm sorry, it's a
yeah,
team radio. Things happen. It's a heat of the moment thing. It was not intentional. It, it doesn't
a
need that
lot is said.
€40,000. Give him okay. Give him a
Yeah,
5,000. Give him a reprimand. Whatever.
yeah,
Have the team have some like corrective action where they're having some kind of sensitivity training or for whatever reason. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Whatever.
yeah.
It's. I thought it was ridiculous. I thought it was the FIA sometimes needs to get their head out of their ass and their hands out of the teams.
Yeah, I think that was I agree. I don't know if $40,000 is it just seems like a very random number and, like, you just
Well,
pull
that's what
it
I mean. It's like
out
the
of
FIA saying, like, "Hey guys, look at us,
nowhere.
look at us. We're this is how we're doing. Look how much we care about this
Yeah,
media. We get it.
yeah,
We know you do."
and yeah, we know. Yeah, I'm not sure, like you said, 5,000. I don't even know what the reprimand should be, could be, would be. Like,
Well,
I
reprimand is
really
just
don't
basically
know.
saying, "Hey, don't do it again." But I mean,
Yeah,
give them a fine. I don't mind that. That's fine. But I think it should
yeah,
be more so a team matter. You don't have to
yeah,
publish that
and
on F1 TV. You don't have to publish it on Sky
no,
Sports. You could have had that conversation,
and
and people have access to this outside of that. I get it. It doesn't have
yeah.
to be published. But in the
And also, this is gonna sound
it's
really
okay.
bad,
Who cares?
but like you said, it doesn't have to be published, it doesn't have to be put on the TV where we see the team radios. We don't see more than
Of
half of the
course.
team radios that come on, and I don't think that one did come up on the screen. However, it was probably one where he was there, tracking all the team radios, immediately pull that one. Immediately
Yeah,
pull
it
it.
doesn't have to get to the public,
Uh,
and you can deal with it
it
in a private matter.
if
Yeah.
it
We're not saying
yeah.
sweep it under the
If
rug.
No, not at all. He did need to make the apology. Again, I think it's very sticky, uh, but the the punishment doesn't quite match the
No,
crime.
no.
I would agree, and again, like you said, we've had much
Yeah,
worse scenarios, and it's
this
5,000,
is very
10,000.
much a self-satisfying thing for the FIA. Yeah,
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 for sure. Makes them look
dicks.
good.
Um, uh,
That's the rant of the
yeah, that's
week.
the rant of the week. I saw it and I'm like, "Okay, come on, Tayuki." And he's been so
Yeah,
good. You never gave him a
yeah.
fine for all the other crap he said when he was just flying off the cuff for for goddamn 4
When
years.
he
No. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
honestly,
now that he's
like,
been
losing
the
his
most
mind.
professional he's ever been, he makes one mistake and it's just like, "Here you go." Well, this is probably the biggest fine we give anybody in a long
Maybe
time.
yeah, maybe they were like, maybe that anger management is not working so well, and
That
I
doesn't mean he's
mean
not allowed to get angry sometimes. It's just
no. And again, we have Helmut Marko
that guy says
has
everything.
made some 0 filter, and his stuff is
Yeah.
intentional.
Oh, yeah. That is a guy who talks and says, "I
So,
don't care what you do to me or say to me."
I don't
Yeah.
care. Like,
Find me.
it's
Red Bull's
so
paying for it anyways.
right. So, I think, yeah, it was a little harsh, uh, but then I felt bad in the sense, and I'm like, these are the little things that Red Bull is going to use to keep him out of a Red
Oh,
Bull
yeah.
seat.
Yeah.
This is what they're gonna use to keep him in the RB if that's where he stays, if he goes somewhere else, but this is what's gonna
Well, I mean,
avoid
they were
him
gonna
going
do that
into that.
anyways. It was just more so, "Hey, bud,
Yeah,
this is the reason. Just so you know.
yeah,
You gotta do better."
yeah.
Do
Do
better,
be
yeah.
better.
Um, um, the other thing, the rumor that, Liam Lawson it's rumored that by the end of July
Yeah.
or nearing the end of July, that Liam Lawson is going to replace Daniel Ricciardo in that seat. And again, Helmut Marko basically confirmed it.
Yeah, and I was just about to say that is from the horse's mouth. And he said Daniel hasn't done
No.
enough.
and then making
And
comments that, it's a Red Bull junior team. We should have junior drivers. We should bring it up
yeah,
people in our junior people in our program, which I mean doesn't really make sense because Yuki is a senior in the junior program now.
yeah.
But yeah, so
The senior at
yeah,
24, but
he's been in it for like 6 years. Uh,
yeah,
um, but yeah, so it looks like Ricardo's time is just ticking away, and he might not
yeah,
last that season. Now, there also been rumors
yeah,
that um, Perez might not work out for the rest of the year, that they still might end his contract. So who knows what that means? Does that mean a seat for Carlos? Does that mean a seat for Daniel? Um, who knows?
I I don't think that's Daniel's seat
Oh yeah.
anymore. I think Christian is seeing the writing on the wall now, and if he's not, we
Then
need
he's drunk.
someone to text him on
Yeah.
WhatsApp.
No, no, no,
Like,
no more WhatsApp. No more WhatsApp for Christian.
someone text
Christian is
him
off of WhatsApp
and tell
now.
him he's
He's
deleted the app.
deleted. He can't have it. He's been banned by Red Bull and his wife. Um,
Yeah.
we're never gonna get him on this show.
Nope, not at all.
um, but yeah, so that's for the rumors. I just lost all track. We'll just beep all that out. It'll just be one long beep.
Yeah.
Uh, okay, it's all sticking in. But the big news was the petty arguing between Jos Verstappen, Christian Horner, Toto,
Toto.
Christian Horner, Max giving his opinion, which I mean it was very calm, but um, yeah.
Yeah.
So apparently they had this weekend because it's Red Bull's home race. They had a bit of an event where
Leg
Legends event,
Legends
yeah,
Parade
where they
or
were taking old RBs. Every bunch of people, David Coulthard I think was in there. Was Vettel
Mhm.
there as well? Um, maybe not
I
Vettel.
think he was there, but I don't know if he
Well, maybe he
drove.
didn't drive, but there were a few people that had gone through, and
Mark
Mark Webber,
Webber.
yeah, um,
Mhm.
and Jos Verstappen was supposed to drive the RB8. He was scheduled to drive the RB8, and then the rumor was that Christian Horner was telling people that under no circumstances was Jos Verstappen going to drive an RB8. And then it was supposed to be filmed with a drone and everything. And he said there's no way he's going to have that filmed. That was also part of the rumor. And that all got back to Jos Verstappen, which his comments were, I don't really care if he doesn't want me there. He was asked to do it, but
Yeah.
then be a man,
It's not up to
but
Christian
also be a
either.
man and tell me. That's fine.
Yeah.
So he pulled out because he was just upset.
Yes. And I don't think this has anything to do with Christian's remarks. I think Christian was just being Christian. But last weekend or sometime during the week, Yoss did have a big accident in
Yes.
rally. So